One of the big stories internationally, most of the votes in Israel have now been counted, and Benjamin Netanyahu is declaring the night a colossal victory for his right-wing party, Likud. The official results are not in yet, but it does appear Netanyahu is in a strong position to form a coalition government. And if so, that would make him the longest-serving prime minister of the country with a record 5 terms. Susan Ormiston, our senior correspondent, is in Tel Aviv for us this morning, continuing to follow the vote and the outcome today. I know it's been very close. It's been very interesting to watch. I mean, can we say at this point this morning, Susan, it's a sure thing now for Netanyahu?
In Israeli politics, in this election cycle, you can never say it's a sure thing. But what we know is that Benjamin Netanyahu seems to have survived a very strong challenge to his leadership. At the moment, both he and the strongest opposition, blue and white, with Benny Gantz, have the same number of seats in the Knesset, 35 each. But Netanyahu is better poised to rely on a block of other seats, right-wing parties, which would enable him to form a coalition government. The president of Israel still has to ask him to do that, and that would make it more official. But I think the top line here is that if this was indeed a referendum on Netanyahu, as many people said, Israelis have voted to keep their prime minister, and that's where they voted last night.
So in terms of, I mean, you mentioned a lot before any firm government is set for the Knesset, a lot of alliance building for that coalition, and indeed, I suppose, still a lot of uncertainty. But what are you going to be watching for today and through these next hours?
Well, it's not as much about the next hours as it is about what happens after this. I think it's widely believed in this country today that unless there's some surprise event, some surprise result, some miscount, that Netanyahu is strongest to form a right-wing coalition government. So that is likely coming. But there are other things to watch for here. Of course, he made a campaign promise late in the campaign about extending sovereignty over Jewish settlements in the West Bank. So question is, if he becomes prime minister, will he do that, and how fast could that happen? Second thing is, he's facing corruption allegations, possible indictment. Again, will this go forward? There has to be a hearing first, and then what happens if he is prime minister and he is indicted on corruption charges? Some are postulating that maybe his term might be shorter than normal. But I think clearly last night, as both party leaders declared victory, there was a lot of confusion here. But the smoke is clearing, and it seems that Israelis have voted where they are, that a majority of Israelis lean more to the right, identify as right-wing in this country, and that's how they voted, Heather.
Susan, thank you very much. Susan Ormiston, our senior correspondent this morning from Tel Aviv.